The reason why Xbox has lost its soul is because if you look at all the Xbox games that were super good in the 360 era, those games were initially way better than any game that could come out for PS3. Because the PS3 was such a difficult system to develop on. If you look at the innovation technology, such as things like in Gears of War, you're able to have really good cover system. You're able to run through the game and everything looks like it loads pretty well. You look like a visually stunning game like Halo 3. Those games aren't doing well anymore because those companies that created them are not around to make games like that anymore. And then you look at how well PlayStation takes care of its developers. You look at Naughty Dog, Santa Monica Studios that created God of War, Hideo Kojima, and them pouring the money into him and saying hey dude, we are gonna help you create a studio and you can create whatever the f you want, no matter how weird it is. Look at what they're doing with the reported rumors of Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid and them trying to outright purchase the franchise. PlayStation really respects their legacy. I'm dissatisfied with Xbox right now. If you compare Gears of War 4 and 5 with Gears of War 1, 2, 3, it's a whole day and night difference. There's a video online made by this guy called Kroby Cat. Alright, so check this out. So this is a video called Gears 5 lacks weight and intensity. And it's a direct comparison on why, in my humble opinion, Xbox has lost what makes it great. Right? If you look at something like this, look at the blood splatter on the screen. And then you compare it with something like Gears of War 1. Look at that. Compare this with this. Okay, just on that alone, try to remember, this is a really old game. You see, whenever he smacks his opponent, the enemy actually feels like he's getting hit by something really heavy. And then you compare it with Gears of War 5, when you're slashing your opponent and it doesn't feel like you're actually slashing him. It just feels like you're just poking him with a feather. Look at that. Okay, when you slash this guy, he just feels like... right? And then when you compare it with this and the way he smacks his gun into the guy, it feels way more intense. Everything about this motion right here is there to make you feel powerful. The way you make games that are immersive and good is everything that you do has an impact on the world. And that is something you don't see in games nowadays, right? Look at this. This is how Gears of War 5 do reactions. It doesn't even look like that guy's being shot. He just stands there and take it. He has holes all over his fucking body, and it's he's just it doesn't even hurt. Compare this with Gears of War 1. Look at that. Every single shot feels like it hurts. So even if you're not getting a headshot on the guy, when you see your bullet penetrate his shoulder and he moves back that way, or you penetrate his leg and he reacts to that, there is some sort of really satisfying feel to it. It doesn't even matter if your console system is more powerful. If you can't include immersion like this in your game is gonna suck ass. This is why I don't think Xbox is going to do it the next generation, because the people who created this game are gone. People who created Halo, Bungie, that's 343 Industries. Look at how your character reacts to the hail of bullets that you're getting. You don't feel like you're in danger. Let's just forget about your health going down or the screen turning red. Your character doesn't even feel like he's taking bullets into his body. Look at this. And then when you compare it with Gears of War 1 and how your character reacts to being shot. Right, look at that. Your arm literally flies back because of you getting shot. They don't even have to put that red logo into the front of the screen to let you know that you're dying. Just by visually allowing you to see your character wince and get hurt in a bullet storm, it's so much more immersive. Right? Look at that. He's dashing through, but he doesn't look like he's visually getting hit by those bullets. Now look at Marcus Phoenix. If you look at Marcus Phoenix, it feels like it hurts. This is why I will never dash through an area with no cover, because it just hurts me visually feeling that my character is dying. And this is why when people play Xbox games, they don't feel like I am in the game. I am this person. I am like, you know, a hero in this game, because there are no fucking stakes. Everything about immersion is taken out to sacrifice in the altar of better graphics. I don't give a f if you have more teraflops, man. What happened to this? Look at how this guy stupidly stands in the middle of fire. He doesn't like have good hit reactions as like the monsters and your main character. And he doesn't try to take cover. He doesn't like try to help you out. Look at how stupid he is. He doesn't take cover, he rolls towards the fire, and then you are responsible of reviving him. And in a lot of situations, if you do not revive certain like NPCs in Gears 5, your mission fails. And it was like not your fault. Like what the f was that guy doing? Like there was like no point in time that it was the player's fault that the character behaved that way. Now compare that with Gears of War 1. Okay, look at this guy, right? He's getting shot. He feels it. He hides behind cover. He takes cover. He takes cover. Doesn't that make you feel like your friends, even though they're NPCs, are more believable? The AI doesn't even have to be that smart. When you're taking bullet fire, try to seek cover. Why can't they have that? Okay, so when you look at this guy crawling around and this guy just got shot, why does it look like the blood that trickled out of him looks like he just got a pinprick from a needle? It doesn't look like this guy is bleeding out. So when you reduce hit reactions for your enemies, you reduce the visceral feel whenever you hit them, and then you reduce the amount of blood that comes out of him, it all reduces the amount of like reward you feel as a player when you play a really ultra violent game like this. And it's really clear why they do things like this is because they want to appeal this game to kids. What made Xbox 360 really great was when they didn't give a f about appealing to kids. When they said like, this is a badass system, this is the ultra violence that you'll get in your video games that you will never get in any other console. And that's why I was an Xbox fan. But what they're doing now is trying to appeal to a broader audience. Let's put aside the fact that Cliff Bleszinski, the game director who created this game, isn't even with the company. Let's put aside the fact that Bungie isn't even making Halo anymore and like a different company's making it. They have totally lost the DNA of what makes their games great. Put that in comparison with PlayStation and their love for their OG developers like Hideo Kojima, Cory Barlog. You know, Cory Barlog has been around ever since like God of War 1. So if you're asking someone to direct a God of War game, isn't there a better person to ask? And like now try to put this in comparison with Xbox and how they treat their heritage titles. Microsoft is dumb because they think an IP alone is what makes it great. So they can throw like money at it. They can make like give it to another studio and like just expect the money to roll in. What makes an IP really great is the fact that the people who innovated and created that IP has to have some sort of like say in the game, right? And even if you can't get like everybody on board, you have to have the original team, or at least what resembles the original team, working on that game. This is why games nowadays, even though they're sequels to like classics, don't feel satisfying. They don't feel the same. When you look at Diablo, it doesn't feel like Diablo 1 and 2 because the people who work on it are different. Look at the blood coming out of this guy and then compare it with like the blood that comes out of your enemies in Gears of War 1. I don't have to say a f***ing goddamn word, man. Look at that. As a player, when you just shot an enemy and you see this happen, and your enemies are so ferociously violent that they would do the same to you, don't you feel a sense of accomplishment and immersion when things like this happen? And this is not even like talking about like your system can't handle this shit. This is Xbox 360. All this takes is up here. It's not the power of your system, it's about what you innovate with it. Right? Even the way he dies and he has like a slight animation to it, he yells out, it's like so visceral. You know what I'm saying? This is how your guy dies when he touches fire in Gears of War 5. Compare that with Gears of War 1. So So when your character doesn't even react correctly to the world around him, how the f you as the player are supposed to buy into the world? You know what I'm saying? Like, if my character doesn't get hurt, why do I care? Look at that. That looks like that guy's made out of Lego bricks. Oh, and the blood fades away. Okay, look at how this guy explodes, right? He doesn't just disintegrate like everything is made out of Lego. He disintegrates based on where you shoot him. You know, his lower half of his body is like f***ed up. And I'm guessing the blood doesn't disappear. You know what I'm saying? The blood is still there. And that adds to like the atmosphere. It adds like, if you're just done fighting a bunch of locusts in a Gears game, you want to see the carnage. You want to see like how this guy died. Like this guy f***ing got like half his body blown off is because I aimed a particular gun at that part. This guy has his arm blown off because I aimed it at that particular arm. I don't want to f***ing see a guy like disintegrate to a bunch of Lego bricks and have his blood disappear. Like, are you f***ing kidding me? Like, how does that make me like invest in your game? Like, I'm there. Like, once you're done clearing an entire room in like a Gears of War 1, 2, 3, part of the reward is seeing your work on the ground. And this is it. This is why Xbox will not succeed with the trajectory they're going with. Like, this is like f***ing 360, right? Like, they can keep the bloodstains on the ground. When you look at like, you know, Xbox One, why can't they keep the blood? Why does it disappear? Just compare the power of both consoles. This console has way more power to keep everything in the game. This isn't because the consoles isn't powerful enough. This is because this is like a distinct choice the developer decided to make for whatever reason, whether it's to appeal to kids, whether it's to make parents feel like this game isn't too f***ed up. So everything looks more cartoony. Look at that shit, right? And then look at how visceral this is. When you blow this guy up, like half his legs are missing. You know, look at the horror on his face. You know, look at the blood stain still on the ground. That's what I want to see. Not this kind of like, you know, patty cake bullshit where you like that guy disintegrates to like a bunch of Lego bricks. Look at that. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, to a certain extent, I can accept like, hey, maybe this is like made out of metal. It's not gonna like break apart. But you can't even destroy a bench with a Lancer. How am I supposed to buy into your world, right? Like, when I play a Gears game, I want to see destruction. You know, I want to see a world that is falling apart. I don't want to see stuff like this where like the chair is invincible.
What the hell? Grab one of these damn guns already.
Look at that. Okay, compare that with Gears of War 1. Bro, I'm done, man. Like, what the hell? This is 360. Look at that. That is how a bench made out of wood is supposed to react to you. When you put items in the game, you're supposed to feel some sort of like impact from them, right? Like, if you hide behind a bench and use it as cover, it shouldn't go without saying like that bench is going to get destroyed, and that's not a good cover to begin with. But guess what? If you play in Gears of War 5 and you hide behind a bench, you're perfectly safe. How's that for gameplay, guys? Look at that. They had to design every segment of that 3D model because you can break off a part of it and it drops to the ground. They didn't want to put this amount of detail and work in the later games. How's your gun feel powerful if you can't even destroy structures like these anymore? You see, when he reloads, and reloading is actually a really important mechanic, right, in a Gears game. They don't even show the gun reloading. Now look at the old game. You see how that mechanism locks in? Look at that. Glass just shatters like cereal. Look at how glass shattered in Gears of War 1. Look at that. Look at that. You know? You're shooting sandbags and they don't even have sand pour out. Now compare that with Gears of War 1. Alright, let's just get this out of the way. The graphics ain't great, but do I feel more satisfied playing Gears of War 1 or 5? Like, the reason why this is such a bad thing, and you not even being able to shoot out sand from a sandbag, you know, in the later games is, why is this so important? Because it differentiates between this material and this material, right? There is no difference when you shoot like a sandbag and this in the later games. And so if you don't buy into the different kind of materials that is placed around the game, like how are you gonna buy that the world is real? You are not gonna be as immersed anymore. Like I'm way more immersed in the old games because like if I shoot something and something happens because of it, I'm like, wow, okay, that's a sandbag. When I shoot a sandbag in the newer games, I'm like, that's not a sandbag. That's a metal barrier that's disguised as a sandbag, you know? Why not just make the whole game metal barriers? Why do you make them into sandbags if you can't even have like sand pour out of them? They might not as well as all of these details because all of these details are bullshit. It looks pretty, but it doesn't even behave like how it should behave. Look at how small the water ripple goes. It just goes like this. When you shoot stuff into water, the ripples actually should be bigger. And that's not to mention like when you're walking in water. Like shouldn't the water react to the player? Now let's look at Gears of War 1.
They can eat shit and die for all I care.
You see how the water actually like treads?
Guys,
You see that? You see how it actually moves? You know, as your player walks, the water like goes like in a V shape behind your player. Look at that. Look at how the water ripples. This is a last generation console. Look at the water. Look at the water like bouncing. It's not about graphics. This looks prettier, but I buy more into this world. And you know, finally, I just want to bring up one issue. The whole theme about Gears of War is fighting in a broken world that is overcome by incredible odds for survival. Everything in Gears of War is so visceral and it's like so hauntingly beautiful is because of the color choices that they make. Everything looks like almost monochromatic. It has like a greenish brown to it. When you look at the new Gears of War game, it doesn't feel like Gears of War is because the color palette is like so Fortnite. Like why does this look like I can take a picnic in this place? Like every single location in Gears, I don't want to be there. I have to like overcome that level of fear of like, oh my god, this place looks so gritty. I don't know at any moment locusts are gonna pop up from the ground. Everything is so visceral. They completely don't even know what makes Gears of War look like Gears of War anymore. A lot of people don't realize this, but there's an element of horror in the game. The horror doesn't come in the form of like ghosts or like jump scares. The horror comes from the carnage. It comes from like what you look at cities and how dilapidated they are and how like the world is like already in a big pile of shit. But here you are as a hero against the odds, still trying to salvage it, still trying to save it. That's why like thematically a game colors itself like this. Like look at how the movie The Matrix is colored, and imagine if the Matrix was colored like this. You lose all atmosphere in your game. When they make new Gears games, they are trying to make games that look visually appealing, right? But they're not trying to make it within the theme of what makes it a Gears game. So just because you see more details in a game like flowers, you see more like details in the armor, you see more details in the trees, there's no Gears atmosphere. You know, this is like a totally different game. I mean, you can obviously argue like, hey, the mechanics are still the same, so why do you give a shit? When I play a game, I want to feel the rush. I want to feel the danger. I want to feel the atmosphere. I want to feel like the music overwhelm me. I want to feel like I'm fighting against the odds. I want to feel like I don't know what will happen at the end. Like, look at this, right? Compare with like Gears of War 1. This is like a vacation spot. If you take away the character, like you take away this dude, which I don't even remember his name because who gives a shit, you would be forgiven if you thought that this game was Uncharted. This is not Gears. When you play a Gears game, you're not supposed to see vegetation. You're not supposed to see like, you know, crystal emerald water. You know, and like people would argue like, oh, the world has changed ever since like the cogs have saved the world from destruction. But when you play a game, you're not playing it for the lore. You're playing it for the atmosphere. You're playing it for what the game makes you feel. Despite like all of this, you're still a badass. When you're playing an old Gears of War game, you're literally a hero fighting for the scraps of the world with like a enemy that you can't comprehend. When you fight in a new Gears game, what the you know, like the feeling is like completely different. Like even something that is supposed to be beautiful as water in like a Gears game is put like in a very haunting atmosphere. Look at this atmosphere. You can admire the beauty of the water and like the glowy things, but everything is made to be, you know, foreboding, scary, horrifying. Like above all that, you need the testosterone to play this game. Right? Look at this. Like, I want to play Uncharted in this world, but I don't want to play fucking Gears of War, right? Look at that. This is a Gears game. This isn't a Gears game. You know? Even they don't even get the reloading mechanisms down right. Look at it. This is a Gears game. This is a Gears game. This is not a Gears game. Look at that. As you're fighting, there is like water fountains pouring. Oh, while it's so ugly, we're gonna make something beautiful, sister. Like, come on, man. Get the out of my face with that shit. The reason why Xbox has lost its soul is because it lacks the testosterone that it used to have in Xbox 360 era. It has lost its balls. When a game dumbs down the violence, they dumb down like they try to make this game look like Fortnite. Like, why does it look so beautiful? I don't get that feeling like something bad is about to happen. I don't get that feeling like every step I take has to be like with caution. I just want to frolic among this place, among the flowers and turn around like fucking Sound of Music. If you look at the other Xbox games like Halo, Dead Rising, and you compare them with the bullshit with what they're producing right now, oh my god, dude, this is not the worst Xbox have done. I don't even want to pull up Dead Rising, bro. There's a video comparing what Dead Rising used to be and what Dead Rising is right now. The graphics may look better, the details look great, but your world is fucking hollow. There's not a goddamn thing in your world that can get me immersed to zombies or locusts or bad guys in a way that I want to anymore. Xbox isn't the same, man. If they really want to make their games great again, I would say either try to hire the original people who worked on it, which I think is going to be very difficult considering like what people, like where those people are right now, or at least try to respect, you know, like the heritage of what those games really meant to the players, instead of trying to create things that just look prettier for graphics sake. And at the end of the day, I don't really want one console to succeed over the other. I just want great games. I would just love to play a Gears game in a next generation system that actually feels like a Gears game. That's all I want. I don't want like Microsoft to die. I don't want them to like not make games anymore. I want to be able to own all the systems and say like, hey, this is what I remember about it. That's what I believe. That's the core difference between PlayStation and Xbox right now. Like, as much as Xbox claims that it respects its heritage and is trying to make backwards compatibility you know, better, and I do agree with that. Like, I think like Xbox did a really great thing by making their console backwards compatible with the 360 and the original OG Xbox. I respect that, and I wish that PlayStation did something like that. But if you want to really talk about respecting the heritage of your games and taking your games to the next level, that ain't it, bro. I'm so mad I can't even pronounce words properly anymore, man. Like, every time like a new developer takes over the studio, you know, they have to imbue some sort of fucking ego to it. Like, hey, let's like not do what the fans like. Let's try to do what I think will look great. And if it succeeds, I will get all the credit for it. You know? That's just the problem with games nowadays, and why they suck is because the developer doesn't want to make the great. They don't even want to study like, hey, the game is great is because, you know, when they originally created this IP, they have A, B, C, D, E. They don't have that. You'll have a new guy in a new studio like 343 Industries, and he'll be like, hey, let me put my own bullshit on this, and maybe it'll be better than what people remember. Like, come on, man. Like, and if you do that as like a step up to what, you know, the developers back then already did, like, that's great, right? If you're like Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe Bryant took like Michael Jordan's moves and he improved on that. He was a better shooter than Michael was. Then you're kind of improving on what's old. But if you take away all the elements of what made the game great, you know, and you're gonna put your own bullshit spin to it, and like all the things that people love about the game back then are now like gone, bro, that's why your consoles are shit.